All right, team. Good morning. Thanks for joining me on the optional Thursday morning meeting where we will be talking about financial success. Last week, we started with tracking where we are spending one of our most valuable resources, which is our finances. So we got a sheet. I know y'all can't see it, but we've got one up there. A sheet of just basically very similar to a profit and loss of a business. First, you got to track your expenses as well as your income, and then the difference of that is either your cash flow or your loss. So hopefully, just like a business, you can operate at a loss. You can do that the same way with your household, and that would be, I'm sure some of y'all saw it. I know I did. During that month of January, we had travel. Some of us were traveling, and a lot of times when you're spending money that you don't typically spend, you don't actually have the cash flow as far as the amount of money left over of a typical month to spend. So you're spending from your savings, and that would be a negative profit and loss statement on your personal budget. So we tracked with that. Today, we're going to continue on the planning for financial success. And typically, whenever I do planning, I think I do it a little bit differently. I don't think it's as pragmatic for most people. So we're just going to focus on, I wanted y'all to have something that you could touch and see from day one to see where you're at. So I think it's important to know what your resources are. So as far as, okay, how much money do I make each month? And then looking at your expenses and categorizing them as far as which ones are fixed expenses, ones that are, absolutely necessary to run your household. And that would be like your rent or mortgage, your utilities. There's certain little things you can do with that, but not too much, can be done unless you're, letting the water run or you got a leaky bathroom, things like that. You've got to eat a certain amount of food, but that's a variable cost because there's, you don't have to go out to eat. You don't have to stop at the gas station. You can prepare, and you can also, there's a variance on what you buy at the grocery store too. So that can be controlled a little bit, but there's certain that, insurance, what else are some fixed costs that y'all saw that like, okay, this is the same every month?
Your cell phone.
Yep.
Obviously, utilities. I think you probably said that.
I got gym memberships that debt I can close down.
Yeah. Debt, gym memberships. If you're using them, that goes into a category. I mean, that's something.
Any subscription.
Yeah, any subscriptions can be deleted unless they are, vital for a part of your goal. So we got that going on. Did anyone have any problems with it? Anything like that as far as the tracking or using the sheet?
I realize Cash App and Venmo are difficult because you don't know. Did I let someone loan some money, or did someone borrow some money, or did I? What the heck was that for?
Right. So, yeah, and Cash App. That's I guess that's the modern day equivalent of cash in your pocket. But there's also the real cash too. If people spend cash, because when I was traveling, that's what I had because I left my bank card. So I know what I spent. I'm real happy about it.
Yeah, I had $300 cash that I spent there that I don't know. But yeah, can't track it down.
Of where it went, it's gone. You could just put it on travel. But yeah, so we had that. Okay, so that's the first part, I think, of planning if you're trying to be pragmatic and looking at, okay, this is what I have, and then we get into start developing goals. So that was one aspect of our resources. Remember, we talked about financial, much money you have at your disposal, but then time. So tracking time takes time, and it can get a little blurry. I know everybody that's got an iPhone, I think, has a built-in activity tracker of where you're spending your time on your iPhone. So that can help out a little bit, but you can, there's different ways of doing it. There's CEOs of, Fortune 500 companies that, they get their secretary to literally track their time and watch them on how they spend their time and then analyze, okay, am I spending my time the most efficiently? You can do that on your own. You can look at, like I said, you can look at your iPhone activity tracker or things like that. But you can also take notes throughout the day, as far as, because what the goal is to find out, all right, how much time do I have? Just like you have discretionary income, how much income you have left over. Okay, well, where do you spend your time as far as what's necessary? The biggest thing that comes to my mind to exist is sleep. That's the biggest block of time that is one of those like fixed expenses, if you will. It'd be kind of like food. Whatever food that you have to eat to sustain you, and then whatever shelter you have to have, that's kind of like an expense like sleep. Like you've got to sleep. Some people are different, but there's going to be a range of, I would say, of 4 to 7 hours that's going to make somebody their best person. So that's going to be the second thing we track, and that's just going to be, I'll just put we can do a sheet. Yeah, we can do it on the sheet because there's cells, and you can do categories of time. So that's going to be what I would like. Number one, finish your January this week as far as like all of the transactions. Go ahead and make categories for them. On that sheet, there were some custom categories you could make. Like I don't think it had cash transactions on there, so you could make a cash transaction or just make the categories fit you. If you have a categorical expense that's not on there, just make it. So get that done for January. Actually, are we done with January? We're done with January at the end of this week, right?
Yeah.
All right.
At the end of this, will you show us how to do that?
Monday.
Yes.
Next Monday is January 31st.
Oh, well, I guess almost then. So Monday we'll have it fully done. But definitely start tracking your time too and thinking about it. And like I was telling you before, I did this a little bit backwards than what I would do, or even what I think most books you would read of like figuring out your why is typically like goal building starts with a why. But I think for some reason, a lot of people's brains are like day to day. I think today's society kind of, I think it kind of puts people's ability to dream or think about what they want in the future, because there's so much stuff coming at us. There's so much, distractions with social media. There's much more financial pressure. There's just a lot of stuff. And like, okay, well, what do you mean? What do I want in 5 years? Like, I need to pay my bills, right? Like, does anyone have a hard time thinking about what they want 5 years from now, or what they want their life to look like 5-10 years from now? You have a problem with that? Or it's difficult?
It was more difficult before I got linked up in this business.
I mean, I came to, like, I figured it out, like,
About a month ago?
When I was like 20, 21, I had zero clue.
Yeah, I was saying before a month ago, I was just like, I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I don't know. I thought there was more options or something. Yeah.
Gotcha. What if you don't mind sharing, if you don't want to share, cool, but if you don't mind sharing, what number one, what got you started thinking about that? And then number two, what are some of your goals?
Well, I know I used to be interested in like computer game design type stuff and like graphic design, like computer stuff. But I started doing this, and I like the way that things grow, and you can you're trimming them, but you're like it's caring for them in the same way, because like you're promoting more growth for the bush, and becoming more healthy, and like for the grass too, and everything. And it's like things you do in the cold months will make them look better in the warm months. And it's just, I don't know, I think it's just pretty cool.
Nice.
Growing landscape and people.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. Well, if you've already got goals and things like this, might help you start thinking about. And for me, the why was always way more important than the what or the how. Like I'm very had a authoritarian angst when I was young, and it's very I would die on my principles. I've gotten better, but anyways, what's helped me is to think about what's important to you, and then starting with what's important to you, then you can set goals in those aspects of your life. Like right now, we're talking about finances, so that should be a goal and think about, okay, what are my current finances? We've checked that out. What do I want them to be? And that is, and here when we're talking about finances, money, I don't know, if you've come from a family that doesn't talk about it, but money is, I don't care what anyone else says, it's not evil. It's what you do with it. And number two, it's how we live here in this world. We're not going to be here forever, but while we're here, the more money you have, the more options you have and things like that. So we'll be talking about that as well. I didn't even put my personal finance because I tie this business into my personal so much. But I've got 4 main aspects of my life that I find extremely important, and I try to live a Christ-centered life. So I start with that. And so spiritually, that's a goal, and it's just my path with God, developing a stronger relationship, understanding more of it, and trying to every day to be thankful and be aware of God's presence. That's kind of like in a nutshell. Family, I put my priority as being a husband, number 1, a father, number 2, and then a son. I'm also a son still. So business, super important. And this isn't a balance thing. This is just a priority thing. Like if God called me right now to go somewhere, I'm gone. If my family needs me, I'm gone. But business is also very important because it fulfills that. So, and then my personal wellness. For me, bodybuilding changed my life, gave me confidence. It's something that I just do for stress and all that. So I suggest, and then I'll put how you can't add a doc.
Yeah, I wish we could.
Add a doc to your sheet and just have like this whole workbook. But we can make, I think you can do a cell and make it a big cell. It's basically like a doc, I think. Yeah, because you can categorize, make your own categories, and then kind of think about, what you want to do inside of that. Finances, personal finance. I messed up this whole thing. I need to have personal finances on here. I always think this business is my future, but I got to start thinking like, okay, well, what can I do in the confines of what I'm making right now? So I got to make some personal finance goals as well. So I'll do that.
That's measurable means a lot to me because you can say I want to be rich, but how the hell are you going to get there?
Yeah, how do you track it? And then
you got to make specific. I got to do A to C, A to E.
Yeah,
to get to Z.
It could be a lot. It depends on what you want out of life. It could be A to Z. It could be a lot of steps involved.
Like Cody's A could be get his equipment.
Yep.
B, develop a business plan. C, execute.
Yep.
You got D through Y to get to Z.
Yeah.
To get to the.
You have the work for it.
That's right.
Where you want to go.
But yeah, creating the goals, like I said, you can do a category of goals. But if you're just strictly focused on finance right now, and you got one goal, put personal finance and list out your goals. But making them specific and measurable. So by making them specific, you can then measure them. And what you track, you can change. That's why we started with the budget tracker. You need to know where we're at. So if you track it, you can make modifications to it to make sure you end up at your goal. Because if you make a goal, like for instance, most people say, I'm going to get in shape. This is January, right? Yeah. Month of resolutions. At January 1, I'm going to get in shape. Well, what does that even mean to you? It's different to every single person. To me, it's different than it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I was trying to be a IMBF pro, or a WNBF, IMBF natural bodybuilding pro. Right now, I just want to cut 20 pounds. Somebody that's never touched a weight or even walked or even ran 1 mile could be, hey, I want to run 1 mile this year. Whatever your goal is, write it down, make it very specific, and then track it monthly. Track it weekly. We track things weekly in the business. So as I do this, we'll also relate it to business and things like that. Go ahead.
I told Bailey yesterday, you asked me if I saved money in January, I would say, yeah, for sure. I've spent at least 500 more than I made.
Yeah. And so let's just let if you don't track it, you won't know where you're at. And you can make modifications. But here's some examples of specific goals. Spiritually, read the word 10 to 30 minutes each day. And so if I just said, I want to create a better relationship with God. Well, what does that mean? Like, what did you do last year? Like, that's very specific. Share the word. And that I need to be more specific in that. But join a J group. Our church has groups, and I want to get more involved. So that's very specific. Business wise, when you're talking about business and personal finance, it's probably mixing. You have to set specific goals. It messed up. Thanks. Oh well, I don't really care about that.
You open that side door and they all just.
Well, I think it actually was. No, it's not still going. All right, whatever.